Club Plus Kids. Last time we met, we read Chapter 5, The Great Mouse Exhibit, where Room 5 was getting set to show all the exhibits and all the things that they have learned about mice. So we're moving on to Chapter 6, The Maze. Here, we should see Ralph get ready to run the maze. So think to yourself, make a prediction. What might happen during this maze? Will Ralph be successful? Will he fail? What could be the outcome? So now I'm going to read. Come on, Ralph, old buddy. Ryan scooped Ralph out of the fishbowl. Show them how smart you are. No one thought there were anything unusual about Ryan speaking to Ralph when Ralph was in plain sight. Children often talk to their pets. Ralph struggled in Ryan's hands, which smelled of egg sandwich he had eaten for lunch. Take it easy, Ralph said to Ryan. You can do it. I need to warm up first, squeaked Ralph. Ryan paid no attention. Possibly he did not hear because of the murmurs of excitement as the pupils gathered around for a better view of the maze. He set Ralph down in front of the opening in the cardboard wall and said, When Brad fires the cat pistol, go for the peanut butter. Ralph shook his paws and in a last desperate attempt to limber up. At the same time, he sniffed, trying to get wind of the peanut butter at the end of the maze. Unfortunately, the room was full of confusing odors: popcorn, tomato sauce, tacos eaten by those who had brought to school lunches, peanut butter, bologna, egg, orange, bananas, eaten by those children who brought lunches from home. Ralph caught a whiff of the grape bubble gum, the reek of the sweaty socks, and the scent of soap fragrance of Miss K. By the time the teacher said, "On your mark," Ralph was completely muddled. I wonder what that means, if you're completely muddled. Does that mean you understand? Are you confused? That's right, confused. He crouched, waiting for the starting gun, which did not go off. My caps are stuck, said Brad. After the heat of the fishbowl, the cool air made Ralph's muscle feel rigid. He felt as if he had been waiting forever. And so here's a picture of the maze. There's Ralph at the top of it. Real close. And the peanut butter plate down here on the other side. So will Ralph make it through? Smells lots of different smells. And he's not quite sure about how to get through this maze. At last, Brad fired the cap gun. Bang! Go, Ralph, go! Shouted the class. The noise was enough to unnerve the bravest of mouse. However, since Ralph had pointed towards the opening in the maze, he knew where to start. He ran through the opening, bumped his nose against the cardboard wall. Then he turned the other way. No! Shrieked the children. Not that way! The other way! Ralph followed their directions and bumped his nose again. My motorcycle, he thought in despair. I'll never get my motorcycle back if I don't do it right. Ralph, don't let me down! Ryan's voice rose above the shouting. Down among the partitions of the maze, with so many lunch-smelling rooters breathing on him, Ralph had no idea the direction of the peanut butter. Ralph D. Mouse, Brad yelled. Now think about that. Why did Brad yell Ralph D. Mouse instead of Ralph S. Mouse? That's right, the D stands for dumb. Everybody shouted, everybody shut up and give him a chance, screamed Melissa. Suddenly, Ralph was angry. He knew he was a really smart mouse. Why should he have to run around banging his nose in front of all these taco and sandwich gobblers? Nimble, he leaped to the top of the partition, caught a whiff of the pure peanut butter, and took off across the top edge of the maze. He would show them who was smart. Ralph was halfway to the peanut butter when he felt Ryan's egg sandwich-smelling hand close around his body. "Hey," said Ryan, "you aren't supposed to do that." So there's Ralph on the partition. So if we look back, that word partition, if we look here, Ralph would be running on top of the partition. A partition kind of separates the area, making into smaller spaces. So Ralph has decided to run on top there. I think that might be pretty clever. What about you? Ralph, feeling that the world was unfair, found himself back at the beginning of the maze. He was furious. No one had said he had to bump his nose on every single dead end in the maze. Why should he? The object was to reach the peanut butter as fast as possible. "On your mark," said Miss Kay a second time. Bang went the cap gun. Ralph leaped to the top of the partition. Nimble raced across the top of the maze and filled his mouth with peanut butter just as the last bell rang, and the room mother began to pass out bags of popcorn. Ryan picked up Ralph and poked him into his shirt pocket. "I told you that wasn't the way you were supposed to do it." He sounded disgusted. Ralph, who was unable to defend himself when his jaws were stuck with peanut butter, felt Ryan was most unjust. If you're unjust, that's another word for unfair. "Class, I wish I had more time," said Miss Kay, as her pupils crunched, remember pupils mean students, as her pupils crunched popcorn and scrambled for their wraps. Time and school bus wait for no one." "Hey, Melissa," said Ryan, "how come you're taking your boots home?" "Because my mother says I can't watch TV all weekend if I don't," answered Melissa. Ryan struggled to free his jaw. Would he get his motorcycle back or wouldn't he? He had to know. "Ralph, dumb mouse," said Brian. "Just because you don't have a mouse," Ryan shouted angrily as he slid his arms into his parka. "You're jealous. That's what you are." "Who wants a smelly old mouse?" scoffed Brad. "You stink, and so does Ralph D. Mouse." "You shut up," said Ryan. "Make me," said Brad. Ralph was terrified by the sounds of scuffling. With great effort, he freed his jaws and managed a muffled squeak. "Me! I'm in your pocket!" Don't let him hit me." His voice was so smothered by the parka that no one could hear him, but Ryan must have remembered. He cupped one of his hands over his pocket, which only left another hand for protecting himself. He was bumped against someone, and fell to the floor. The class began to shout, "Fight! Fight!" and crowded around as popcorn scattered. "Boys!" Miss Kay's usual gentle voice cut through the commotion. "Hurting people does not solve problems. It only makes things worse." Ryan got to his feet. Ralph, shaken but relieved to find himself uninjured, peered out the shirt pocket. To his horror, he saw Ryan reach into his pocket of his parka and pull out a crushed helmet and a little red motorcycle broken in two. Oh, how do you think Ralph feels about that? Let's see if you're right. His precious motorcycle, his only means of transportation. 4 feet didn't count as was destroyed. Ralph experienced the darkest moment of his life. "I will get you for this, Brad," said Ryan, as Ralph slid back to the depths of the pocket. You broke Ralph's motorcycle," Brad laughed. He could. He had not. Here's a picture real quick before we go back to the next part. There's the fight. He had not been knocked down. "Are you crazy or something?" he asked. "What do you mean, Ralph's motorcycle?" "Boys, that's enough," said Miss Kay. "Hurry along, Ryan, or you'll miss your bus." In the hall, Ralph emerged from the pocket to confront Ryan. "Now see what you've done? Because you won't give me back my motorcycle, you've gone and done it. You've wrecked it." Ryan, flushed and humiliated, turned on his friend. I don't care if your motorcycle is broken," informed Ralph. "It serves you right for not doing what you were supposed to do. I never should have brought you to school in the first place. See what happens because I tried to be Mr. Nice Guy." Do you think that Ryan really wants to talk to Ralph that way? Or is there some other feelings behind that? "Some nice guy," said Ralph, with a tiny snarl. "Wouldn't even let me have my own motorcycle. And now look at it. Busted. Well, I have had enough. I'm getting out of here." With that declaration, Ralph climbed out of Ryan's pocket and wound down his jeans and jumped to the floor, dodging waffle stompers and boots as he fled. "Hey, watch it," called Ryan. "Don't step on." He turned and ran for his bus. Ralph dodged feet until he was safe against the wall, where no one would step on him or even notice him in the crowd. As soon as all the children had left, he made his way to the library without bothering to nibble on any popcorn smashed on the floor. The torn book bag in which he had enjoyed such comfortable naps was gone, but he found a fresh bag, gnarled a little hole in the brown paper, and crawled into the soft, steady chewing stuffing. How good it felt! Warm, cozy, and comforting. After all he had been through, this was a terrible afternoon. In the hall, Mr. Costa was sweeping up the popcorn with his broad broom, while his transistor radio sang a sorrowful song about a broken-hearted man trying to hitch a ride on a lonely stretch of highway while the coyotes howled in the night. After Mr. Costa left, the school was deserted place. The next morning, children did not return. Ralph, who did not understand that there was no school on Saturday and Sunday, had never been so alone in his life. He had stood on the cold and empty hallway and squeaked as loud as he could, but his tiny voice could not even raise above an echo. All weekend, he roamed the desolate halls of the classroom. Half-heartedly, he nibbled what he could find to eat, going because he missed his motorcycle so much, and wondering if he was doomed to roam forever the lonely corridors of Irwin J. Sneed Elementary School. Why didn't the children return? Ralph thought of the old hotel with the shabby lobby warmed by a crackling fire. He missed the reassuring tick of the rasping old clock. He missed watching television and the activity in the lobby that arrived, and the departure of guests, and the arguments among the staff. He missed old Matt, his protector, and his supplier of peanuts and popcorn from the Jumping Frog Lounge. He wondered if his plan to make the little mice leave the lobby had worked, and if Matt still had a job. Ralph discovered he even missed, sort of, his little brothers and sisters and cousins. He wondered if the littlest one still fell over his own feet and became tangled in the fridge carpet. He wondered what they would say if he could see him now, cold and lonely, in the vast empty school. He was wondering what they would say if he went home with Ryan without his motorcycle. Something like, yeah, serves you right for not wanting to give us a ride." The scoffing of his relatives was something Ralph could not face. Never. He walked slowly back to the book bag in the library. He heard a dog bark in the distance and was reminded of the coyote that howled in the night the song about the lonely man trying to hitch a ride on the highway. What a sad world he lived in. All right. Some things to think about. Why is Ralph so sad? What went wrong in that chapter? That's right. He's sad because his motorcycle is gone and he's lonely. His motorcycle got busted and he's sad. All right. Till next time, chapter 7. A Cucaracha Voice is our next chapter.